We're back in Mountlake Terrace with our show sponsor, Red Onion Burgers, and the owner, Sean Richards. Sean, I'm like a lot of people these days. I've got a busy schedule. I barely have time to find food when I'm home. And sometimes on the weekends, I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to watch football. You guys are making it easy for us with Uber Eats. Tell me a little bit about that program.
It's easy to do with Uber Eats. You can get Red Onion Burgers delivered to your home. All you got to do is get on your app, order your food. It'll be delivered within 15 to 20 minutes, and voila, you're watching football.
Easy enough. Enjoy food from the comfort of your couch. Red Onion Burgers.
Welcome to This Week in High School Sports. I'm Teresa Whipple, and fall is in the air, Steve, but we're not going to talk about football yet. We're going to talk about cross country.
We are, and quite a bit to talk about because of one particular athlete that we want to focus on, Yukino Parle. We've had her in studio before. We've mentioned her name countless times. Phenomenal athlete, state champion in the 3200. She's always one of the top long-distance runners in this area. She had herself a pretty darn good week. First of all, we should mention she was the WIAA Athlete of the Week, or one of the Athletes of the Week in the entire state, and rightfully so. Last week, she was at the Twilight Invitational up in Marysville. Won that event outright. It's one of the premier invitationals in the area. Taylor Rowe is always one of her main opponents when she goes to an invitational like that. Taylor runs for Lake Stevens, which is a 4A school, so they never see each other at state meets. They're 3A versus 4A, but Taylor, a two-time state champion in her own right, and she's only a junior, one of the top runners, maybe even in the country. Yuki ended up beating her at the Twilight last week, so she gets the victory there. And then this past weekend, she was at the Hole in the Wall tournament, or the Hole in the Wall Invitational, up at Lakewood High School in Arlington. Huge event up there. And she gets another victory. This time she was able to outkick Taylor at the finish, beat her by 0.5 of a second, and picked up her second straight win. Not only is she the WIAA Athlete of the Week, we're also going to make her the Action Jackson Plumbing Player of the Week, because when you we were going to try to save her for the state before we gave her one of these shirts, but how can we not wait now when she's out there defeating Taylor Rowe and winning other accolades? We need to make sure that we recognize her as well. So great week for Yukino, and other runners that were also participating in that event I should mention too. I know Olivia Meter-Yetter finished in the top 10 at the Hole in the Wall event. Stephanie Rubliski, she had a nice showing up there as well, as did Lucas Lacambra from the boys side of things. So great job for some of those other Edmonds-Woodway runners as well.
Okay, and let's move on to football. What's going on there?
Yeah, another doubleheader on Friday night, and which means two of our teams picking up victories. Edmonds-Woodway and Meadowdale. Is it jam the stands? Is it stadium jam? It depends on who you talk to, right? Both teams seem to call it something different. We're going to call it jam the stands this week because Edmonds-Woodway, which is what they refer to it as, they picked up the victory, so they can call it whatever they want.
Yeah.
And we've got a picture here of their crowd. They defeated Meadowdale 21-6 on Friday night. Broke the Meadowdale 3-game winning streak in that series. So the Warrior seniors wanted to make sure they got at least one victory in before they graduated, and they did so. Another picture from that game, we've got Noah Becker catching a pass during the game on Friday night. And another player we want to mention, Capasio Cherry, 302 yards rushing. Take that in for a moment. 302 yards rushing in that game. Got to pull out the shirt one more time, Teresa. We're going to give him the Action Jackson Plumbing Player of the Week for that. So by this time next week, Yukino and Capasio, two fun names by the way too.
Yeah.
They will each own one of these shirts, and maybe we'll even get pictures up for them. So a nice job from Capasio and his teammates in getting that victory. Edmonds-Woodway right now just kind of rolling through Wesco 3A South, still undefeated in league play. Looks like they're probably going to be the number one seed coming out of that division when the playoffs start. And then we had a second game, the 8 o'clock game on Friday night. Mountlake Terrace, homecoming night. They pick up a 27-9 victory over Linwood. Mountlake Terrace now very quietly 4-2 on the year, so nice job by the Hawks. We've got a picture we want to put up. It's Musa Traore, who we had in studio last spring as a wrestler. Musa scored a touchdown the other night during that game. Other players scoring touchdowns for the Hawks. Jesse Martineau, who was the quarterback, he ran for one touchdown. He threw for another to Brandon Bach. Seems like Brandon scores touchdowns pretty much every week, as does Keegan Grayson, who we've mentioned before on the show, and he had another touchdown the other night. So nice job for the Hawks. Nice job by the Warriors. Segue time. They play each other this Thursday night. A Thursday night game, which are unusual around here. So Thursday night, Edmonds Stadium, 7 p.m. Mountlake Terrace versus Edmonds-Woodway. And then Friday night, the usual Friday night lights over at Edmonds Stadium, it'll be Meadowdale versus Linwood. So you get 2 chances to watch high school football at the stadium this week.
Very good. And we talked about last week that we were going to try to get those swimmers out of the pool and into the stadium, and we did it.
We did, finally. It took us a while, but they were finally able to come in and were joining us here on at the studio. We had 2 Edmonds-Woodway swimmers come in. Warriors, always a tough program, always vying for state participation and state titles and things along those lines. And 2 of the better ones from the Edmonds-Woodway team this year came into studio and talked to us not only about their swimming seasons, but other things as well. Here's the interview. The Edmonds-Woodway swim team well into their season, and with us right now, 2 of the seniors from that team, Morgan Broadhead and Ilaria Simmen. Ladies, thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Swimming, an interesting sport. It's one we try to talk about here from time to time, but it's always hard to find the results until really you get to districts and states. So I think I'll just kind of start off by just generally asking, how is the season going for the team so far, Morgan? I'll start with you. Everybody having a good time so far this year?
Yeah, it's been good. We haven't gotten too far in, but our dual meets so far have been better than expected, I think, especially with our new coach who is getting a handle on things right now.
And Ilaria, what about you? I know this is it's an interesting sport because you think of it in terms of individual, but really there is a team component to it, and you do keep team scores. So tell me a little bit about this. And I've got a picture I want to put up here as well. We've got a photo here of the entire team. I think both of you were somehow off to the side on this one, so you're not in it, but your teammates are. As far as this being a team sport, what is that like? I mean, when you're out there in the pool, maybe your particular event is over. Are you watching what your teammates are doing? Are you trying to add up scores in your head? How does that work?
Definitely watching everybody and like supporting everyone. Not really adding up scores, but definitely like saying, oh, that person won, and that, like trying to keep track, but not like counting.
As far as motivating each other, Morgan, do you find yourself maybe talking to a teammate right before they go to swim, or are you just more on the sideline cheering them on? How does that work from a team component and team standpoint?
I think it depends on who it is, like how well, if I know if they're aiming for a certain time, or like I'll pace Ilaria in like her 500 or something, I'll come up, or if everyone notices that someone is swimming a race that they wanted to work really hard in, we'll line up on the side of the pool. Or I don't know, relays are definitely, you support each other a lot. We all go up and we'll have a little talk right before, and the coach will come over, but I think in general it's pretty supportive.
And the other thing about swimming too, interesting to note, we always hear about sports that are so much based on year-round and clubs, and soccer, it's academies, things like that. Swimming, for the most part, a lot of the top swimmers are in fact participating both on their high school teams and on club teams. And I know both of you swim club as well. Ilaria, tell me how that works into your schedule in terms of when are you swimming for club versus when are you swimming for the high school team during the fall?
So during the fall, it works. I do high school practice before, and then right after head over to club.
So you're doing club in the evenings then for the most part?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Saturdays we have club.
Yeah.
Okay, and Saturdays are usually when you're in competition for club? Is that how that works?
Competitions for club are a little more rare. Meets are only like every couple months or so practice just on Saturdays in the morning.
And we want to make sure we give a shout out here too. Which clubs are both of you swimming for? It sounds like you both used to swim for the same club.
Yeah.
And Ilaria, you kind of peeled off, is that correct?
I did. So we both used to swim I used to swim for Cascade,
Yeah, I swim for Cascade.
and now I swim for Stingrays.
Okay, now where's Cascade located at?
Mostly it's like Seattle area, so we practice at Helene Madison in like Shoreline, Seattle, and there's a few other pools down there.
And Ilaria, what about you?
Stingrays is mostly opposite Everett, so Mariner High School and then Snohomish Pool.
Okay, very interesting. So when you start to add up all the math in your head between meets and practices and club versus high school, Morgan, how much time are you spending in the pool a week?
It's probably anywhere from like 10 to 13 hours in the pool if you have like 2-hour practices a day or 2 or 3 hour meets or so. Yeah.
And Ilaria, is that about the same
It's
for you?
not the same.
Are there other activities and exercises that go into swimming when you're not in the pool? I mean, are you doing any kind of conditioning or?
For my club practice, we do like dry land, so we'll do like preventive exercises and also like abs and leg workouts and stuff like that.
So it's a busy time of year for both of these two ladies and their teammates. Looking ahead, I know we're mostly through the season at this point in terms of the meets against other schools around the area. You're getting ready for districts coming up and then state, which happens, I guess it's November 10th and 11th. As far as looking at your seasons in terms of what the objectives are, do you look at it in terms of what kind of times you want for certain events, or is it more about placing at state? Morgan, I'll start with you on that one because I know you took 5th last year in the 100 free. You were 14th in the 100 breaststroke. So you're having a very nice career at Edmonds-Woodway. What are your goals for the season?
I think I'm focusing more on the 100 free. I'd really like to place any higher than 5th. That sounds a little hard, but haven't really seen exactly how it's lined up this year, but hoping to do good in that again. And then I don't know if I'll swim the 100 breaststroke again this year. Our coach has been putting me in a couple other events. I think he wants to see me do something else, possibly.
And as far as knowing your competition at the state level, is there as far as who defeated you last year, the 4 top swimmers, are they back this year? Were they seniors? And do you follow them during the season?
I think a few of them were seniors, so that's part of why I'm hoping it'll be a little bit less competition up there this year, but I haven't seen if there's any new competition.
Sure. And Ilaria, what about you? What are your? I know you've been a state participant the last couple of years in relay events. What are you hoping to get out of this year?
I'm hoping to make an individual event for the first time, and I'm hoping our relays both make finals at state.
Very nice. And now, in terms of qualifying for state, it's always a little more convoluted for swimming. I'm always trying to figure out how this works, and I can never quite get my head around it. It's not necessarily where you place among the other individual swimmers in the district. Sometimes it just is a matter of time, right? Ilaria, maybe you can kind of help me out with that a little bit. How do you qualify for state?
Yeah, so each event has a qualifying time, so you can get that time. Or when we go to districts, you can get top 4. And if you're top 4 in your event, you go to state. And then at the very end, they have these things called wild cards they hand out for any remaining spots in events.
Okay. And now for you, Morgan, again, I know we'd like to think on paper it should be fairly easy for you to get into state, especially for an event like the freestyle. So at some point, are you maybe focusing more on not necessarily where you're going to place in districts? Are you working more on form at that point, or how does that work for you when you're competing at the district level?
I think districts is like where I first start to I try to drop time in my events. Before that, I'm trying to get back into it, find out who I have to race, see how it's going. And then districts, I'm, if anything, trying to drop time, get myself into a higher spot going into state.
And at these various meets that you go to, do you have certain events that you enjoy more than others? Ilaria, what are some of the events that you enjoy the most?
I enjoy the 100 backstroke and the 400 relay, medley relay, and sometimes I enjoy the 500 free.
Okay, and then Morgan, we've got a picture of you we want to put it, by the way, here too. What obviously freestyle seems to be the event you've had the most success in. Is that your favorite event, or would you do you prefer other things?
I think the 100 free is definitely one of my favorites. It's short, pretty fast, not too painful. 100 breaststroke I've always swam, so that's another favorite, and recently been swimming the 100 back a little more, so I like that too.
You've got 2 meets coming up this week, 2:45 start times. Snohomish on Tuesday, and that's at the Linwood Pool, and then Jackson on Thursday. But by the way, 2:45 start times. Football, we always see the games at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. What is it like going and actually swimming competitively that close to after school? Is it even an issue, Ilaria, or would you rather it be later on so you can kind of ease your way into it, or is it nice just to get it over with? And
For meets like this, it's definitely nice to just kind of get it done with. But on bigger meets like districts and state, it is nice to have a gap, between school and then the meet.
Is it the same for you, Morgan? And I'm always curious too, when you have 2:45 start times, does it change your eating regimen throughout the day? I know swimmers like to take in a lot of carbs and whatnot. Are you eating smaller meals throughout the day? Are you snacking in between periods, or how does that work for swimmers?
We definitely snack. That's probably, I think, a good definition for how swimmers eat. I don't really think it changes my diet or anything. I just kind of try not to eat directly before I get into the pool, but other than that, it's regular.
It makes sense. If we go to an Edmonds-Woodway meet, who else are we going to watch out there in the swimming pool?
Angela Kim, a junior, Alexis Song, sophomore?
Yeah, she's a
She's
sophomore.
sophomore. They're the other 2 relay teammates.
Is that
Yeah.
for all of the relays that you, it's pretty much the same
yeah,
four?
For
or is it-
For the 2 that we swim, that's our relay.
Okay, so we'll see if they can help these 2 ladies get to state later on during the year. As far as after state is completed, which again is on November 10th through 11th, and we should point out the districts are November 3rd and 4th up in Snohomish, and then state, if you can get there, down in Federal Way every year at the Aquatic Center. By the way, how much do you enjoy swimming at state in the Aquatic Center? That's that's one of the top facilities around, right?
It's really nice. I mean, I've been there a lot. A lot of our club meets are held at Federal Way, so definitely been there a few times, but it's a very nice facility.
Worth the drive then, right?
Oh,
Yeah, you feel fast, so.
I can imagine. As far as after state's done, Ilaria, you kind of surprised me when I was talking to you off camera. I just assumed that swimmers, they just kind of keep going, and once state's done, you'll keep going with your club, and then maybe into college or wherever it might be. You're pretty much ready to be done at this point, aren't you? You're bailing.
I am.
So tell me a little bit about that. Is it just the hours and hours and putting into your efforts for this? Is it just something you're ready to take a little break after state's over?
I've just done it like you said, every past year I've done that. You go to state and then you just continue with the club, right, year round. But with it being my senior year and I'm not going to swim in college, I'm just kind of burnt out, honestly, on the sport. So.
But you're going to enjoy it, the ride from here on out, right? Anyway, so you'll definitely have a good time there.
Yeah.
And then Morgan, what about you? Obviously, with some of the times you've put up and some of the places you've had at state, I've got to think swimming could potentially be in your future. Is that something you'd like to look into?
For now, I'm definitely going to swim club until March, where we have sectionals. Hoping to make sectionals and swim there. And then after that, it's a little bit more, depends if I swim in college, and I don't know yet. So if I am, I'll swim through the summer and then into college. If not, I might stop after sectionals.
And I also learned from talking to both of you that you're not exactly taking the easy road through high school. You're both IB students, which means that your studies are a lot more strenuous than some of the other the classes that you could be taking. I would imagine with swimming and taking those difficult classes, is there time for much of anything else? Is that something you're maybe looking forward to, Ilaria, after state is over?
Yeah, definitely to have that like a little bit of free time.
So what are both of you looking to maybe study potentially in college? Do you, Morgan, have you thought about that a little bit yet?
Probably architecture and design. I'm really into that.
And then what about you, Ilaria?
I want to go into law.
Okay, so swimming and both at the state level, architecture, law, two very motivated young ladies and two that are having a lot of success so far. Morgan, Ilaria, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Again, a couple of big meets coming up for Edmonds-Woodway this week, and then it's time to start getting ready for the postseason. So we wish them the best of luck.
Thank you.
Well, you just had to notice that in the last segment, I said out of the
Pool and into the stadium.
into the stadium instead of into the studio, but you know.
It's a lot quieter around here than a real stadium, but
Yeah.
we'll take that. It works.
Okay, just to show that we do keep each other on task from time to time.
One of these days we're going to put together a blooper reel. It's going to be
Yeah,
it's going to be
it'll be
outstanding.
fantastic. So now we need to talk about tennis, but before we do that, we also have to show a photo of our cross-country
We
athlete.
do need to put this up. We do have a photo of Yukino Parle, who we just talked about during the previous segment. This is a photo that the WIAA actually used when they sent out their notice for Athletes of the Week this past week. They always feature a handful of athletes, and they use one photo in particular. So if you go to the WIAA's Instagram page, or their Instagram handle, this is the picture you'll see. So pretty cool that Yukino was the one that they chose to use. So again, we had to throw that in there because WIAA, big deal. I like to think personally that her winning the Athlete of the Week for Action Jackson is
More
bigger because
important,
it's more important
yeah.
on our end, but
Yeah.
WIAA is pretty big too. So
Yeah.
congratulations again.
Yeah, very good. All right, so now we're going to move on to tennis.
We are. Tennis season starting to wrap up as far as the regular season. District play already starting next week. It feels like school just started and we're already
I
talking
can't
about.
believe we're talking about playoffs already.
Yeah, districts tend to start a little bit earlier for some sports when you need to kind of work your way through it for state qualifications and whatnot. But districts are right around the corner, so we thought we'd bring two of Mountlake Terrace's tennis players in to just talk about their seasons and talk about the districts that are coming up for them, which is always unusual for Mountlake Terrace, the 2A school that plays in a 3A conference during the season. So everything changes for them next week. And here's an interview we did with two of their players. The Mountlake Terrace High School tennis team wraps up their regular season this week. They head off to district play next weekend. And with us right now, two of the members of that tennis team, Jake Peters, who is a senior. He is the #1 singles player on the Hawks team right now. And Marck Primavera, who is a sophomore, and yet he's the #3 singles player. Guys, thanks for coming in today. Boy, these seasons go quick, don't they? It feels like we just started out with the school year, and you guys are already getting ready for postseason play. Jake, you're the elder statesman of the table here for the two of you. Tell me about your senior year. How's it gone so far?
It's going good. Yeah, I'm having a good time. Playing a lot of tennis, working. Yeah, just having a good time.
And for you, you play in the #1 spot, which means that every time that Mountlake Terrace plays a tennis match, you get to go against the #1 player at other schools, and it's a Wesco league that's pretty loaded right now with talent. I've got to think for you, every time that bus pulls up and another tennis player gets out, you're going up against some pretty stiff competition.
Mhm. Yeah, it can be tough sometimes. I mean, sometimes I feel really good about going into it. Other times, I just tough.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine. And then, Mark, for you, you played a lot of doubles last year, so you made the transition to singles. Do you have a preference one over the other, or where do you enjoy playing more than the other?
Well, I like singles more because you work harder for it, and it's like you're the only one on the court, so you have more control over how you play and how the game goes. And for doubles, it's like more like a strategy kind of game because there's two people playing on the court. And for me, like, it was kind of boring playing on doubles than compared to singles.
Now, interesting to note too, though, you were mentioning to me a few minutes ago that you're playing singles right now during the regular season, but it sounds like you might be playing doubles at districts next week. Is that right? And if so, who's your partner?
Yeah, so for districts, I'll be playing doubles with Alec Ong, and we haven't played together for a while, and we both haven't played doubles during the season yet, so we're gonna have to adjust a lot to the district games.
So when you during practice during the week, do you find some time to play a little bit with each other just so that you're getting a little more acclimated and prepared for the districts, or is it just kind of get out there together next week and hope for the best?
It's a little bit of both.
Uh-huh.
So right now we have 2 matches coming up, and we're planning to play doubles for those 2 matches and prepare for the districts. And we also have 2 practices after that, and we're planning to prepare during those practices as well.
Okay, we should mention the 2 matches is that Mark just referenced. You guys are playing at Meadowdale on Monday this week, and then you're at Shorecrest on Tuesday, and then you head off to districts at the end of the week, which is at Skagit Valley High School. Jake, and we've got a picture of you we want to put up here right now. So there's you in action. You also mentioned that there's an outside chance you might be playing doubles at districts. Is that right?
Yeah, it just depends on how my coach thinks that I'm going to have the best chance of going to state, being that it's my last year. There's another guy I would play with. His name's Vito. He's an Italian exchange student. He's pretty good, and he's going to be qualified just barely for
In terms of getting his
districts.
practices
Yeah.
in and enough matches to qualify for the
Yeah.
districts. Okay, very interesting. And then, Mark, I wanted to ask you about a match you played on Thursday, and we have a picture of Mark we're going to put up here as well. You went up against Laughlin Rogan from Edmonds-Woodway on Thursday, and your third and final set, the deciding set, was a 10-8 game. So you went into a little bit of an overtime match, if you will. What are those matches like? Do you enjoy? I know I think the second game of that, or the second set of that match was 6-7 also. So not a short match. Do you enjoy those long marathon sessions, or would you rather just be quick and?
Well, I like playing the long matches because, well, for me, I was behind in that set, and when you're fighting just to get back and stay on top, like it feels really good when you work that hard just to win that set, and yeah, it feels really good.
I've got to think too when you look at the pro set and the pro tour. When you start thinking about those guys playing 5 sets, is it just mind-boggling to you? Jake, can you even imagine wanting to play 5 sets on a regular basis? Or
On a regular basis, no, but I think I could do it every once in a while.
sure.
Yeah.
So again, districts coming up next week, and districts are interesting for Mountlake Terrace. I know you guys, and we talk about this with other sports as well. Mountlake Terrace is a 2A school that plays at a 3A conference. So number one, in theory, you'd like to think that some of your tougher competition you're going to see in the year is during the season and not during the postseason, which is a little different than other sports. But also, Jake, for you, it also means you're more than likely going to be going up against guys you've never seen play before. Is that exciting for you? Would you rather know your competition a little bit?
I would much rather know my competition a little bit. Every time I've played someone I've struggled against during the season, I've always played better against them the second time because I like to think that I'm a smart player and I pick out my opponent's weak spots. Like if they're tall, keep it low, and most of the time always keep it to the backhand.
Now, you mentioned weak spots for height, but I've got to think there's other weaknesses you start to gather as you're playing against somebody in a match. How quickly can you make those assessments? Is it one of those things where usually in the first few minutes you start to recognize tendencies pretty quick?
Well, I try to give a lot of variation when we're warming up. Like if I think they're slow, I'll hit the ball to either corner consistently and see how quickly they get there. Either they're being lazy during warm-up or they're just not that fast. And then yeah, I hit a lot of drop shots a lot, and if they're slow, that makes it easier, or if they're fast, makes it a little more difficult. Typically, if they're fast, they normally don't hit as hard. Yeah, it's kind of a balance.
Interesting
thing.
that there's a strategy then. It's kind of
Yeah.
a chess match even before the match begins. Mark, are you similar? Do you kind of watch your opponent's tendencies, or do you try to maybe kind of pull one over on them as they're warming up and maybe let them think that you're one style of player, then maybe show them that you're another? Or
Well, I guess during warm up, I'm not as observant as Jake, but I notice like the small things, like maybe if their backhand's not as strong or as strong as mine, and so like, during the match, I would try to hit to their backhand more often, and then I guess throughout the game, when I try new things out, and if that works out, I try to do that more often and try to win some points off of that. And if things stop working, then I try to change up the game, but. Like I said, I'm not as observant as Jake, so I forget about those things, and yeah, I'm still trying to get used to that.
all right, playing number 3 as a sophomore though, so you're observant enough to have some success, which is great. Hey, in terms of the rest of your team too, I know we just mentioned Alec and Vito. Who else can we possibly see if we go to a Mountlake Terrace match, Jake? Who else is on this team?
So Anthony Bunyan, he's probably playing number 4. He can be really consistent, and he can hit really hard on his forehand. Yeah, he's just a good player. He's only been playing for 2 or 3 years. I mean, he's gotten a lot better really quickly. If he's played 4 years or so, like I did before high school, we'd be really close.
Any other doubles players that are out there that we could keep an eye on? Or
Yeah, Ian Potoshnik and what was it, Tanner Bowe.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. They both play baseball, so they're pretty athletic. And who else is there? There's Andrew Doty and Drew Daly.
Jack
They-
Ledford,
Yeah, Jack Ledford, and
Andy.
yeah, and Andy Shaw. Yeah.
quite a few different players out there to
Yeah.
watch. And tell me a little bit about each other's game. I won't make you guys talk about yourselves in the first person in that sense, but Mark, tell me a little bit about Jake when you play against him in practice, or what does he do well? What are some of his strengths out on the tennis court?
Oh, it's really fun to watch Jake play. Like his serve. Well, I remember playing a practice match against him, and I couldn't return the ball back to him because his serve's pretty consistent and there's a lot of pace on it, and sometimes he does like a weird underhand spin where it just bounces and I can't even get to it.
I'd feel bad doing that in a match, so I don't do that in a match.
So you save that for Mark then? Is that what
Yeah,
you're saying?
yeah.
Okay,
I only
very
do
nice.
that during practice.
Very nice. And then Jake, what about Mark? Tell me about the sophomore here. What's he like playing against?
He can get this crazy spin on his serve. Like, if I've never played him before, like every time it'd probably hit me in the chest.
Okay.
And he can get a lot of topspin on the ball too, and he can be fairly quick. Yeah, he's coming along pretty well. He's gotten a lot better since last year.
Great attributes for both of them to have as they get ready for districts. As far as school's concerned, Mark, for you're only a sophomore, so I'm not going to bring up college yet, but what other activities are you involved in when you're not playing tennis at school?
Well, last year, and I'm planning this year to do Key Club and DECA Club.
Mm-hmm.
And another sport I was planning to do was I was gonna try out for soccer this year. Yeah.
It's the soccer team that made it to the state semifinals last year, so
Yeah.
be a nice team to play on again this year. So see if you can make that. And Jake, for you're a senior, so before I even talk about college with you were telling me before we started rolling here, you've got big summer plans too. Tell me about your summer plans and what you're doing now to get ready for the summer.
I really want to go on. There's this Europe trip that some history teachers take every 2 years or so. They go to Europe. And 2 of the teachers that are going are 2 of my favorite teachers, Mr. Ellinger and Bazant. And Mr. Bazant, he's Polish, and that was one of the countries we're going to go to. So I thought that'd be a pretty cool thing to do. So I've just been working a lot. Going to start working some more once the season ends, and making money. So
You're saving up money right now. And where you're a lifeguard when you're working.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So is swimming something you could
I'm-
possibly do, or are you happier sitting in the chair just kind of keeping an eye on
I'd
things?
much rather just sit in a chair. I'm not a competitive swimmer at all.
There you go. Hey, why not? You can sit up
Yeah.
there and make a little money in the process. So very nice. And as far as college is concerned, any thoughts to that yet? Do you know where we want to look at next year, or are you still?
Ideally, I want to go to UW. It's really hard to get into, being Washington and all that. I want to pursue mechanical engineering. If not mechanical, just some sort. I'm really into the STEM stuff.
Very good for you.
Yeah.
Excellent. So two young men who are doing some great things on the tennis court and off the tennis court. Next week, again, district play starting up at Skagit Valley College. Jake, Mark, thanks for coming in, and best of luck the rest of the tennis season.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck to the Terrace tennis players, and district is always a fun time for them.
Yeah, and fingers crossed that weather cooperates. That's always an interesting
I
challenge,
know.
trying to get those matches in mid-October to get further on down the road. And again, the state competition, we should point out, it's kind of strange that takes place in the spring. So even if they do qualify, they still have to wait a few more months before they can contend for state titles.
That's
So
right.
we'll see.
You know, I thought in the summer we were going to have hot weather forever. It just all of a sudden it's fall. It's
Not in the Pacific Northwest.
I know. It's time for warm clothes. All right. Well, let's talk about soccer.
Yeah, talk about a sport that doesn't wear warm clothes, by the way, too.
Yes.
So, but they're doing a lot of running, so that helps. Girls soccer is still going on right now. We've got a couple pictures we're going to put up. There is Meadowdale's Jacelyn Hart with a go-ahead penalty kick over Arlington, and the Mavericks ended up winning that match 2-0 on Thursday night. And then we've got a picture from Linwood's match. That's Edna Yamani, who controlling the ball against Shorewood. Royals winning that one on Tuesday, 2-1. So as we start to kind of look at the standings now, and again, we're starting to keep one eye on the standings and one eye on what it means for district playoffs, which are just a couple weeks away. Meadowdale currently in third place in Wesco, Linwood in seventh, Edmonds-Woodway in eighth, and they really are kind of jumbled together right now. I think between Meadowdale and Edmonds-Woodway, we're talking about 1 game difference, so things can change relatively quickly right now. So we'll be keeping an eye on all 3 of those teams as we move forward. Linwood is going to be hosting Mountlake Terrace on Tuesday night. Edmonds-Woodway on the same night will host Arlington over at Edmonds Stadium. And then Meadowdale plays at home against Everett on Thursday. So some big matches coming up for all 3 of those teams.
Okay. And now volleyball.
Volleyball, again, more pictures to put up, right? So
Yeah.
we're going to share those right now. We've got a picture from Linwood's match the other night. That's libero Kiana Pell with a dig against Edmonds-Woodway. The Royals actually getting a 3-2 victory over the Warriors that night. And then we've got a photo from Mountlake Terrace's match. That's Candace Disney, who slides in front of our teammate Caitlin Scott to get a dig. Mountlake Terrace defeats Meadowdale 3-1 on Wednesday night. And oh, by the way, since we're talking about Candace Disney, homecoming queen last Friday night. So congratulations to Candace, and congratulations on her Hawk teammates for getting that win against Meadowdale. Looking at the volleyball standings, Linwood 4-2 in league play, Edmonds-Woodway 4-3. So really, 2 of them really trying to get into the playoffs right now. Linwood will host Meadowdale Thursday night this week. Edmonds-Woodway will be hosting Oak Harbor on Tuesday night. So if you are a Royal Warrior fan, either one, get on out and support those teams, because right now they need you most as they're trying to get into district playoffs.
Yeah, a lot is going to happen in the next couple weeks to determine those playoffs. So.
Yeah, and that's what makes this time of year so much fun. It's every night when after you watch one of these matches or games or whatever, it's always fun to kind of get on the computer and see where the rest of the teams fared or how they fared, and figure out what it means to the playoff race, because it's in some cases it's going to be real nip and tuck and possibly come right down to the last game of the regular season. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see, and we will be back next week with all the scores and standings and whatnot for you to find out about. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you then.